The Justice Department's goings on. How does the Justice Department answer for this?
It's a great question, and I don't know, but I thought when you look at what the president said when he finally weighed in, one of the big things that was missing was no thank you to law enforcement. There was no acknowledgement of that, which is such a simple, easy, and frankly, a very basic thing that politicians or leaders usually do in an instance like this. So that was also interesting and raises more of the questions that you're asking.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess I kind of, at this point, have reached my glass is no longer half full. It's just overflowing with all the crazy that comes out of Trump. And on this one, why would we be surprised that a self-proclaimed nationalist would not speak out against a self-proclaimed white nationalist? Why are we acting like this is a space that Donald Trump is going to go in on behalf of the American ideal? No, he's not. And these are his people. All right. And he's not going to thank law enforcement because he's probably not happy about what law enforcement did.
Is that where we are?
That's where we are. I mean, I call the space where we are. I mean, I'm just not going to try to dress it up and be all, pie in the sky and hopeful that, maybe in the next incident, Donald Trump will actually get it right, that he will have matured in his presidency enough to act like a president.
But that's a brave thing to say. Let me just draw you out on that. If he'd carried out his attacks, what do you think the president would have done?
Well, that's the next test in all of this. That's a very good question, and it's absolutely the next test, because we can sit here and honestly say we would hope that there would be the appropriate level of outrage and pushback and all hands on deck, to your point about, the Justice Department and those responding. But here we sit and we have a little question mark over, the little thought bubble is a question mark. I don't know what he would do. And that's the sad spot about all of this. And you have communities of color, you have communities across this country that are concerned about whether or not this president is interested in protecting their interests.
Let me I can't let this go because you're blowing my mind. So you think if Dylan Roof committed that crime now, I mean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No amazing grace?
Show me otherwise. Prove it to me otherwise. All right? Prove it to me otherwise, because I can only go on what you say, what you do, and what you don't do, right?
All right, let me come to you, but let me show you, I want your thoughts on this, and let's watch one of the president's allies in, I guess we call it legal circles, Joe DeGenoa.
We are in a civil war in this country. There's two standards of justice, one for Democrats, one for Republicans. The press is all Democrat, all liberal, all progressive, all left. They hate Republicans. They hate Trump. So the suggestion that there's ever going to be civil discourse in this country for the foreseeable future is over. It's not going to be. It's going to be total war. And as I say to my friends, I do two things. I vote and I buy guns.
Hey, Joe, we just hate racists. Heidi?
Well, this is, to Michael's point, the climate that we are in. And we can sit here and we can debate whether you can draw a direct line between the president's rhetoric and any one particular event. But what you can't debate is the climate that we're in right now. And the fact that just this week, the president dusted off his enemy of the people rhetoric, which is authoritarian language ripped from the dictator's handbook that we have not seen from any modern American president. You have to point out the context in which these events are taking place. But then secondly, I wanted to ask Mike, go back and take one more stab at Michael, because I think one of the other things that's new here.
I need a drink in my cup.
I got one.
It's not just Trump, because like we say, we've seen this over and over again. But now are we to a point where no one in your party, and correct me if I'm wrong, but who in the party is speaking up? So it's not just the Department of Justice burying this, but it's the party also. Where are the party leaders who've spoken out on this?
The crickets you hear are the sounds that you get from people who aren't willing to step into this space and push back. And it goes back to what we were talking about in the first segment on all the stuff related to the investigations and the behavior of the presidency, the president, the difficulty he has placed the presidency itself in. And of course, the least important of all of this is the political piece, is the party. It's, the country first, then the party. But you would think that, that in any one of those two spaces, you would find the the strength to speak out.
I have
What
to say,
party, though? What party?
Yeah.
It's not a party.
It's not a party.
It's a cult of personality.
It's a cult of personality.
It's an extension of the mob family. But I don't want to let this go, though, because I think we talk about the lasting harm Trump will do. It's obviously giving God knows what to Putin in terms of territory, terrain, and foreign policy giveaways. But I think the conversation on race, it's not even a conversation anymore. It's what Joe DeGenoa said it was. It's a war.
Yeah.
He greenlit a war in this country around race. And if you think about the most dangerous thing he's done, that might be it.
And who was talking about that? Who was actually agitating for that to happen? Donald Trump's new base. White nationalists have been agitating for that space to be exploded onto the national scene. And then when you've got credible individuals supposedly inside the party, and Joe DeGenoa, I've known him a long time, he's a credible guy. When he gets out and says, we are in a state of war, well, who declared it?
And I'm buying guns.
And I'm buying, well, who declared this war?
But the other thing
and when do we start fighting it? Do we come to your house first? I mean, because I want to know where we start this. Because if this is the declaration that this president is allowing to be made, then we all need to do a check down on this, on guys like Joe and others. So we can't sit back silently and accept it. You know, the president had all day yesterday to speak on this issue about this terrorist that was 17 miles from the White House in Maryland, right? He had all day yesterday. His response today, 24 hours later, is, well, I've got another few hours. It's a shame, and I got some more briefing to do.
And not clear what my real quick last word.
Nice. Well, what was so remarkable about that soundbite that you played is that he talks about the Civil War, says all of these ridiculous things about what the media is, and then punctuates it with guns. And you can't read that any other way than outlining, you know, us versus them, and then violence at the end.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and you know, there was this atmosphere. It's as if the atmosphere was sort of charged with gasoline right before, and you know, a lot of things going on, economics, race, you know, and so Trump is an arsonist. He's just lights matches.
Phil Rucker, I want to give you the last word, and I want to ask you if you can add anything to the timeline. Donald Trump said he hasn't been fully briefed. That doesn't sound right. I worked in a White House. Presidents are briefed on all terror plots, unless he's dispatched all of his White House advisors, which I didn't read about in your paper. And he said that the full briefing will be 2 hours from now. Can you fill anything into that timeline for us?
Well, he actually said 2 hours from now would be the final briefing. I cannot imagine a world in which he did not know this happened until he was just asked. And 2 points to just button this up. One, Joe DeGenoa, who was just on that clip talking about war, was actually somebody Trump nearly hired as his personal attorney in the Mueller investigation. So keep that in mind. And number two, if it weren't for Hallie Jackson asking those questions, we still wouldn't have heard anything from President Trump. He did not voluntarily make this comment or condemn that action. He only said so in response to her question. So good on Hallie for that.
Always good on Hallie, but especially good today. Thank you for making those points, Phil Rucker, and thank you for spending so much of the hour with us. After the break, from Little Rocket Man to sender of love letters to Donald